Hey cuties, Lady Aethra here. Today we will be unboxing the March Paletteful Pack. As you can see, I do have two camera angles going on at the beginning of this video and as I start to paint, but at some point it goes back to just the one camera kind of from the side. Stick around to see what I made with this month's box. For the unboxing, we can go with this. Have my trusty cat paw knife. Alrighty, let's get into this puppy. I have not peeked. Oh, okay, looks like we got some palette knives and a sticker. Late Night Artist, nice, accurate. And some brushes. We got a fan brush, a sapphire Robert Simmons fan brush. And I will take these out of the plastic and give you a better look. Also a sapphire Robert Simmons filbert brush. Worms. Palette knives. Very familiar with those. Cobra Study solvent-free oil paint. Oh my gosh, wait, do we have oil paints? Ooh, I've been wanting to try oil paints. This is exciting. These colors are on almost every artist's palette. They are a combination of an opaque, semi-opaque, and semi-transparent color. By mixing, you are free to create as many colors as possible. Ooh. Cobra oil color gives you the freedom to paint everywhere. I guess because it's solvent-free. How cool. And it looks like we have a couple more colors. Oh, let me read what these colors are. It doesn't say, it just says numbers. So let's... Sorry, one second while I open this box. Oh, they're so little. We've got yellow ochre, pure red, and ultramarine. And then our additional colors are ivory black, much bigger, and I assume, yeah, titanium white. Titanium white. And then we have a canvas, an art alternative 6x6 cotton canvas. Nice. And then canvas board, also 6x6, and another canvas board, 8x8. Very nice. And then the Paletteful Pack green worms. Okay, let me get this out of the way. And look at it together. Cobra water mixable oil paints. Cobra is Royal Talon's line of water mixable oil colors. Cobra is a professional oil paint with the same high quality pigments and viscosity you know and love, without having to use harmful solvents. These water mixable oil colors have a high degree of light fastness, and under museum conditions will remain unchanged for at least 100 years. Wow. The solvent-free water mixable oil paint gives the same great result as traditional oil paint, including even brush strokes and long-lasting fade-resistant color. And it has the prices. The 3-color set goes for $7.99. The ivory black goes for $8.60, and the titanium white goes for $8.60 as well. We have all alternative canvases. Canvases are canvases, you know. And then the brushes. Ooh, kiln dried beechwood. 22 karat gold ferrules. Wow. Gold plated ferrules. I will not leave these in water. Oh, and they're all handmade. Painting knife set. Yep. And then our prompts are sky, black and white, still life, or history. Well, the image at the top and the colors make me want to try sky. And maybe we'll try something black and white. So as I mentioned while I was reading the prompts, the first thing I wanted to try was painting a sky scene. This isn't something I usually work on personally, but the colors seemed well suited to it, and I figured it was an easy kind of first go, simple, test the blending, see how I can layer the paint, etc., etc. Right now I'm just putting the paints on the palette. I tried to give a nice palette view with the camera, but like I mentioned, this second view in the top right corner is going to go away eventually. I did start with the 6x6 canvas board because I wanted to save the canvas for last. It was like my final painting after practicing on the 2 boards. Between the 3 paintings, you'll see I went for very different styles and approaches all throughout, and I do think I've learned quite a bit, and I'll get into that later in the video. I wanted the sky to look kind of like a sunset on the horizon kind of view, so I am starting with our yellow ochre, which is kind of almost a brown yellow if you've seen the tone. So it's not super bright, but I did manage to still get a nice color, and it went into the orange and red and purple, blue, and dark blue. And as you can see, I went from this like rosy color into a kind of gray purple, almost lilac color. And at first it looks very stark, but I was actually able to blend it out pretty well, which is what I'm showing the camera right now. It's actually very interesting. It makes me want to play with these oil paints a bit more. I will say, I don't think I have the most patience in terms of painting. I'm so used to acrylics where you can paint a layer on, work your way around the canvas, and by the time you get back, you can just go ahead and paint over that last layer because it's completely dry already. Oils are so different. I painted these a couple of days ago, and they're still wet. Oh, here my computer crashed, and this is actually when we lost the second camera as well. And I didn't notice initially, so I kept working on the sky. But my computer crashed, and I got it pulled back up and waited for the stream to get started again before I continued painting. But anyway, oils take forever to dry. I don't know exactly how long they take to dry, but definitely a lot longer than acrylics. And you can't just like take a hairdryer or heat heat gun to them the same way you can with acrylics, watercolor, and gouache. I did go into this totally blind. I opened the box, pulled out the paints, and started painting with them. I haven't watched any videos on how to oil paint yet, or seen any tips or anything like that, so I'm really just giving it a go. Before I try them again, I do want to watch some videos on YouTube, maybe on Skillshare, we'll see, and just see what the best approach is, because obviously the way I'm used to painting does not work. Right here I was getting pretty frustrated because the colors underneath the clouds kept getting picked up, and I wanted them to look nice and fluffy and bright and add some reflections and shading into them, but it just wasn't working. Instead of adding more white and the nice reflections and colors and pretty stuff that you see online, it was just picking up the color and making it dingy and weird. So that was not very fun. So I ended up adding as much white as I could to the clouds, and pretty soon here we go. I just went right into the stars because I was just so done playing with these clouds. The fan brush was a little bit too much of a straight line of stars, so I just took the palette knife and dunked the tip in some white paint and kind of dotted it on. Next, we're going into kind of a weird piece where I just used the palette knife to paint. I just wanted to try it out. It has a lot of texture, it's really chunky. I made a quick dark background around where I wanted the figure to be, and just spread it on, swooshed it in there with the palette knife. It's blue, black, and just the tiniest bit of white. And then I mixed up some skin tone and just went for it. I didn't mix up enough skin tone, so pretty soon I had to mix up more, and it ends up being a slightly different color. But this does go into some kind of like color theory, color mixing stuff. I started with the yellow ochre, the red, and a bit of white, but as you might have just seen, I added the tiniest bit of blue because the skin tone was very pink. So adding the blue brings it to more of a neutral tone. And then, yep, I'm going in, making my silhouette. If you can't tell already, this is going to be a female torso and upper thighs. I didn't do the arms, I didn't do the head. I just wanted to play around. I haven't painted a woman yet, as common as that theme is. I just haven't personally done it before. So I wanted to try my hand, and I did go for a slightly more full woman, I'll say. She's got a tummy, she's got some big thighs, and a large bosom, large chest. I didn't add in like nipples or any private areas or anything. Here I am trying to add some shading. Initially, I made it kind of a funky color. It was too yellow for a shadow, but I do go in and fix it a bit. It also looked like the shadow was on top of the higher areas instead of under it. So once I get it down initially, I do go in and smooth the skin tone back over the shadows since this is so 3D. One of the things I intended to do with this was to give hanging breasts, not like super perky as they are. But a weird thought occurred to me that was almost like too indecent, I guess, which is so weird, and I guess that is some of my internalized biases against like aging and weight and females in general, like internalized misogyny. So I thought that was interesting thinking back on it. I did add in a lighter tone to kind of highlight some of the rounder areas, but you can see she's pretty perky. Just rounding out the shapes a bit more. Making sure the background is fully up to the edge. And now we're going in for a quick close-up. I'm sorry it's a little shaky. I was trying to avoid getting paint on my hands as much as I could. But you can see there's a lot of texture going on here. This was pretty fun. I want to try this again. Next, we're going for the canvas. For this piece, I was actually inspired by the prompt history. And with it being Women's History Month, I thought I would do kind of a play on it and do the, you know, herstory thing, as cheesy as that is. And the day before I painted this was actually International Women's Day. And the theme for this year was break the bias. And there's the specific hand signal to go along with the hashtag about break the bias, which is hands crossed over the chest. So I wanted to recreate that, and I reference a photo, but I'm not necessarily trying to recreate the person in the photo. But I do end up pretty inspired by her because she is wearing blue and has red hair, and you'll see later that that's what I end up going with. If you're unfamiliar, break the bias is referring to the bias that we as a society tend to have against women in work and media and just in general. It's kind of the double standards and less opportunities and all that stuff. If you want to look it up, I'll link something in the description. But that's what I was inspired by here. I started out with just a base skin tone, and I mixed up a couple of shading colors, and again, I made a shadow that used some color theory. It has kind of a purple base, because that looks more natural as a skin tone than just going in with black. And I do some nice subtle shading on the hands. I did end up going and getting a smaller brush because the one that came in the box was a little bit too big for how small this painting is. But I do start the shading with the larger brush. I didn't want to go too heavy-handed with the shading, so it is pretty subtle. In a way, this was a mistake because I do go in and add a black background later, and that totally washes out the shading. The person ends up looking pretty flat, so that's a lesson learned. Once this dries down a bit, I might fix it because I do think it still has potential, but where it ends up right now, I'm not the happiest with it, and some of the proportions end up being a little off as well. Here I am going in with that little bitty brush, kind of resting my finger off of the canvas because I don't want to put my hands in the paint. Our subject will be wearing a face mask since that's very topical for how things have been for the last couple of years. So that's why you can only really see the bridge of her nose and her eyes, as well as her hands, obviously. And adding some of the lighter shading around her face here, as well as some of the darker tones in where the eyes are a bit sunken in and around the nose, under the brow bone, under the eye sockets. Fear not, she does get eyes litter. I didn't just leave it as the skin tone shading. In fact, I think I am about to add... Oh no, I do the clothes first, sorry. So here I am giving her some sleeves and shoulders. I do end up making the shoulders a little bit too wide initially, which is why I end up going on with the black to slim them down a bit. And I definitely have regrets around that. I still think it can be saved. I just, by the end of this, was rather frustrated, and it was pretty late for a weeknight. So, toward the end, you'll see I start rushing, and things kind of go haywire. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Speaking of the shading on the face, though, this does make me want to try a large-scale portrait. I don't have a subject in mind. I might just take a number of references and kind of combine their features and work off of that and just see how well I can capture a face, because this blending is so much nicer than acrylics that I do want to give it a fair shot. I just need to learn the appropriate way to approach oils, because I'm just so inexperienced in them. Adding in the face mask. I went with the classic medical blue color. It's very recognizable, and it fit the color palette really well as well. I did try to add some of the ridges initially, but I wasn't liking how it was looking, so I left them out for the moment. And now I'm going in and trying to give her some eyes. I did run into that same issue where the paint was picking up the color underneath it and kind of blending in with it. So initially the whites of the eyes were not very white, but they did at least have the shape of eyes, so I was able to go from there and add in the irises and the pupils. I wanted to give her some green eyes, so I tried mixing up a green from our blue and yellow ochre. It was a lighter green than I wanted, but I mean, it works. It looks like eyes. I think it's fine. I did mess up the pupil on the left side of the canvas, so I scraped the paint away and fixed it. That's one of the cool things about oil. If you really mess something up, you can just wipe it off. You can scrape it all off, which is really what I should have done with some of the black and blue, and then later with the hair. And you'll see what I mean with the hair. It really gets out of hand. But like I said, it was getting late. This was my third painting in the same night. I was having technical difficulties, and I was being asked to go to bed by my partner. He wanted to go to sleep, so I was trying to hurry. I did have to pick up the canvas to add the lash lines and the eyelashes. It was delicate work on such a small canvas. As a reminder, this is just a 6 by 6 inch canvas. It's pretty small. It's not the smallest I've worked on, but for eyelashes, I mean, it's pretty teeny. Especially with working on top of wet paint, where the brush is just kind of wanting to dig in and drag in the paint instead of actually make a line. So like I mentioned, I did give her red hair and kind of a side part. I initially just went in and blocked in a base layer of color around her hands and face. And I figured her hair was behind her shoulders, not necessarily in front of them. I did initially make her hair very big. Like, too big. Especially on that left side. Things just felt really unbalanced, and I was trying to fix it with the hair, but I think I just made it worse instead initially. But then I realized it was way too big, so I'm going in and trying to first fill in the red color and make sure that's solid, but then I tried to add some texture with the fan brush. I admit I don't really know how to use a fan brush. I've seen people use them and they do such a delicate, nice work, but for me they're just always a mess, and I feel like I don't have enough control. I did add some little gentle curls around the face so that it doesn't look like her hair is just like a hat or a helmet. I wanted like some baby hairs and some little fallen curls. I was going for nice curly textured hair. And here I am trimming down the shape a little bit because it was pretty out of control. Which again brought in more black, drowned out our shading on the face and the hands. Mostly the hands. You can still see it a bit on the face, but the hands just look like hot dogs or something. I don't know. I need to fix them. Once I sheared the hair down with the black, I did go in and add more curls all around the edges and around the face. Again, I didn't want it to look like one smooth block of hair. And now we're going for the close-up. Thank you so much for following along as I try oils for the first time. If you want to see more, subscribe, follow me on my socials. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to stay charming. Bye!